What do you think people will discover about dark matter?
Oh, I don't know. That it'll be quantized. There'll be particles of dark.
What does that mean, quantized?
In particles.
Okay.
So you know the word electron.
Yes.
So electricity or electric fields are manifested or produced or come to be because there are charges in particles with charges. And protons, we talk about protons like that. You can go get a PET scan, proton emission tomography. You can go, yeah. And we don't smoke, people. That was a joke.
Right.
Yeah. And then we all take it. It used to be called nuclear magnetic resonance imaging, MRI. Now we just call it MRI because it creep people out.
Yeah.
But all those discoveries led to these things that we have every day. And the promise of nuclear energy was great. But nobody is comfortable with the waste. Even people who handle the waste very well have to handle it quite gingerly.
Right.
Nobody wants it around. When I was taking physics back in the disco era, actually before the disco, in Motown, I was taking physics. Fusion was always 40 years away, fusion. But December of last year, people got more energy out than they put in. Fusion was done here on the Earth's surface. If we can come up with fusion energy on the Earth's surface, it will, dare I say it, change the world. And so pick a number, about a dozen universities and companies trying to fuse protons or neutrons to get tremendous amount of either heat or this crazy electric field that you could capture directly and produce electricity. Wow. It would change. If we had unlimited electricity, we could get her done.
Wow.
Get it all done. We could feed everybody clean water, take carbon dioxide out of the air. Are you excited about sustainable aviation fuel? Who isn't?
That'd be amazing.
Yes. So we talk about a shortcut. Man, if these guys and gals in South Dakota can take municipal solid waste, MSW, and turn it into kerosene. Jet fuel is kerosene, just with some stuff to keep it from freezing. And then turn it into rocket fuel, which is the same thing, just filtered, really filtered. Say what you will about Elon Musk, and Jeff Bezos, say what you will about those guys, but the ultimate goal of both of them is to use rocket fuel made from air. Take carbon dioxide out of the air, turn it into kerosene, turn it into jet
That'd be
fuel.
Powerful.
Oh, man. So then you could use all the airplanes you have now and all the rockets you have now and just in unlimited ways make kerosene. I mean, it would just be amazing.
Do you think that'll happen in the next 30 years?
30, yeah.
Wow.
But getting it for every airplane in the world in the next 30 years, that's something else.
That'd be tough, huh?
Yeah, but getting it for, say, enormous number of domestic flights or Northern Hemisphere flights, very reasonable. You guys, we could just, in Silicon Valley fashion, we'll let these entrepreneurs will solve the problem. They'll have first money and some venture capitalists and angel investors and everything will be great. And I'm a billionaire, so take my word for it. Or we could invest like crazy, the way people did to create, everybody's talking about Oppenheimer, to create nuclear weapons. We could invest in basic research. We have to redistribute wealth. Everybody wants to be a billionaire. Sure we do, but everybody can't be a billionaire and still have enough for everybody. Unless we, use pennies instead of fragment, whatever. I exaggerate. Back to you.
You mentioned the universe is accelerating, expanding, right? And in that acceleration, is dark matter being created in that acceleration?
Don't know, man.
We don't know that yet.
I don't know, man. If somebody does, there's a cosmologist out there, an astrophysicist. Thank you. I don't know. I'm a mechanical engineer.
What do we understand or know about the universe expanding and accelerating and our own thoughts?
Oh, see, this is a great question. So is your brain expanding? Or the stuff, the matter of you, is it spreading out in some amazing way? And is there some field going between stuff in some new way?
That's what I'm curious about.
Be that as it may be, to the woo-woo people out there, and I imagine you have a few woo-wooists, when scientists make discoveries about entanglement of photons, do you know the double slit experiment? Double split. I'm talking fast. So here, you guys, this is a digression, but it's worthy of everybody who in a scientifically literate society to consider. Have you ever looked through a piece of plastic, what have you, and seen a rainbow? Like they have glasses?
Yes.
Okay. That's a way to explain that is light travels in waves. So when they go through these finely divided pieces of plastic or glass, they constructively and destructively interfere with themselves on the other side, caused by the slits, picket fence that the light's going through. Well, here's a strange and amazing freaking thing. People, if you do experiments on light to observe waves, you will find waves. If you do experiments on light to find particles, you will find particles. And anybody, even people who hate science fiction and hate me and hate Star Trek, have heard of photon torpedoes. We have photons, can observe photons. So here's the strange and astonishing and amazing thing. If you set up a gizmo to shoot one photon at a time into the double slit, you get the same pattern. It's as though the photons know each other.
I've seen this. Yeah.
And this is one thing about it is called entanglement, that somehow the photons are entangled. When scientists discover that and prove it and do these experiments to demonstrate it, it doesn't mean that you have psychic powers. That's not the same thing. It doesn't mean you can bend spoons with your mind. That's a separate, different thing.
What's it mean?
Just co-opting scientific terms for these woo pseudo-scientific ideas is inappropriate.
Right.
Can we say inappropriate?
Sure.
And taking somebody's money when you know better is also inappropriate.
Sure.
So there was a big article the other day about Uri Geller.
Uri Geller.
You guys are so young.
Yeah.
So Uri Geller was renowned for bending spoons.
Okay.
And
with his mind, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
He used to refer to himself as a mentalist. Now he's kind of pulled back from that. Are you a magician? Oh, I would never say.
Sure.
So I've been with a couple guys, but the notable guy was James Randi, who died a couple years ago. The amazing Randi. So you're a science teacher convention, you're talking to James Randi, and he picks up the spoon from the table and he's talking to you about the spoon, and he's got the spoon and he's talking about this, and then he holds it up and the spoon, because he just bent the living heck out of it in his magic, you can't see it kind of way. He had a very strong finger. So that is apparently, by all accounts, what Uri Geller does. But people are still amazed, that because he's a great, terrific showman. But I mention this because when scientists discover entanglement, it doesn't mean that somebody's bending spoons with his mind. Everybody.
Right.
Causation, correlation does not imply causation, to get all philosophical buzz phrase on you.
Can you talk to me about the science of thinking? What a thought is?
Man, I don't know, man. So I spent a lot of time from time to time with brain people.
Okay.
I am not a brain person.
Yes. What have you learned about them, though?
Well, that everybody is trying to figure out what consciousness is. Dr. Heather Berlin, friend of mine, is trying to figure out what consciousness is. And her old guy she used to know very well, Christoph, they're trying to figure out what consciousness is. And they can't, or haven't, rather not they can't. They haven't so far, yeah. And we all want to know, and this is what philosophy is trying to figure out, do you know this expression, justified true belief, JTB? Like, how can you prove anything is true? And it gets to this, ergo sum erat, I think, therefore I am. I'm thinking, therefore I must be alive. I must be here. But what goes on with our brains is so subtle and so troubling and such a freaking mess. And now we're all dealing, and I'm not changing the subject, we're all dealing with addiction. Everybody either knows somebody who's an addict or knows somebody whose life's been deeply affected by addiction. The guy in the news now, the president's son. And when you become an addict, apparently it affects your brain, and you just don't think the way other people think. And it is an amazing thing if you've been around addicts who just make up stories, who just lie. The stories are all self-consistent, and they're created from their consciousness somehow, almost instantly, but it's happening apparently through chemistry in your head. And so I'm not an expert in this, but I've done a couple shows on addiction, and I've been around the brain people when they're arguing at brain people conferences, and it is utterly fascinating. And as a skeptic, a formal I'm a member of both skeptic organizations. I read Skeptic Magazine. I read the Committee for Scientific Inquiry. Who doesn't? Your perception is so unreliable. One's perception, what you think you're seeing in the world. You know, the dress, was it blue and white, or was it gold
red
and white?
Or whatever,
Yeah. Like your perception is, and that's just talking about your
eyes. Memory too.
Your memory is a mess, man. You make stuff up all the time. And so, and you do it apparently to get through life. Like it's a shortcut through getting through life, for getting through life.
Have you ever had any extreme addictions?
Have I? Not as far as I know, except I do like toy trains.
Right.
And
more obsession.
And I do like throwing frisbees around.
Right.
But I'm not sure that's the same as an addiction.
I think seeing people struggle with addiction is one of the hardest things to watch, especially if you love someone, if you care about someone for 5 years. God. And it's also one of the most inspiring things to watch people overcome.
Oh, man. So that just shows you. Is it because there's a higher power that is influencing people, or is it chemistry in your brain?
Interesting.
Chemistry in your brain seems much more reasonable to me. And so you get into this thing everybody's talking about now, gender fluidity, and I'm not changing the subject. It's that there's a spectrum for all of this stuff. Addiction, obsession, fascination with playing cards, whatever it is, there's very seldom cut and dried, very seldom A or 1 or 0,
right.
And or. Yeah.
Sure. I want to ask you a couple final questions here, Bill. But
final? No, I'm sorry. I have talked a lot. You have many questions, and I keep going on.
Again, I want to acknowledge you for the constant impact you've made for, I got more than 30 years, but I'm just speaking from the show.
Thank you, yes. It's 30th anniversary. We're going to have a big party in Seattle. Don't miss it if you can.
Nice. And acknowledge you for your commitment to bringing education and entertainment to really mostly kids that have then grown up and become interested in these types of ideas.
Understand, that was the modern word is intentional. We had very compelling research that 10 years old is about as old as you can be to get the lifelong passion for science.
Wow.
And it's probably, to me, it's about as old as you can be to get a lifelong passion for anything. When did you want to tell stories? I mean, you were a little kid.
Right.
Yeah. When were you interested
sports? I was interested in sports.
Yeah. And so that's why it was aimed at people in 4th grade. It wasn't an unconscious, intuitive decision. It was research. Except it was intuitive in the sense that when I was a kid, I loved science, and I still do, and so on.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Wow. Again, I acknowledge you for the impact you consistently make.
I still don't get over it. I was in Bayeux, France, where the cathedral is, with the tapestry telling the story for illiterate citizens. And this guy I watch your show. What? Did you watch it in French? No, watch it in English. That's how I learned English. And all these people not of my ancestry who watched the show and got it. It's just amazing to me.
It's beautiful.
I can't get over it.
What's something about you, Bill, that most people don't know about you?
Well, I don't know. I like swing dancing. I like that music.
I'm a big salsa dancer.
Oh, salsa. Yeah. I really like that. And I'm able-bodied enough to do it. I really like that music. The music that you have coming of age, that's the music that you like.
Yeah.
You know? But my parents listen to swing music, and I like that. But that's not all I listen to. I mean,
Right.
I listen to my uncle, my father's brother, sang barbershop. And I don't know if you guys know barbershop, and only one guy is singing the melody. The other three guys are off doing some crazy chord structure, Hindemith, or one of these
sure
music theory thing.
That's cool. Besides what's happening in the world of global warming, what is a fear of yours that you personally have?
Oh, that dementia will make me a burden.
Really?
Yeah. My family has absolutely no history of dementia. In fact, one of the empowering or wonderful things, the same people that have ataxia seem to, as they say, you'll die with it, not from it. People live to be very old and they remain sharp the whole time. So that gives me hope, but that is a fear where you're just a pain in the neck to people, And the other thing, people use this expression, you don't want to suffer. You don't want to have so many health issues that your life's miserable. But on the other hand, nobody's in any hurry to check out. No, let's go, man.
Sure.
James Randi, the guy, talks about it all the time. He's alive. He was alive through modern science. Man, I will not be surprised if cancer is solved because of these breakthroughs. Are you familiar with CRISPR?
Yes.
Yeah. Clustered regularly interspaced short palindromic repeats. People are going to be able to modify the genes, especially of farm crops, but then perhaps someday of people with
cancer cells or
with ataxia and cancer cells and cells given to cancer. The other thing, people love to make fun of lawyers. It's always a great joke. There's a blues lyric. You can tell me that a boatload of lawyers just sunk, but I still have the blues. But the reason people still want to move to the U.S. is our laws are better. People have been sitting around in nerd fashion thinking about laws for 250 years. And so it's based on, in my opinion, which as you know is correct, is based on this desire or striving to make life fair for everybody. Not just as many people as possible, but for everybody. And so that gives me great hope that we are continually moving to a more fair world. And by the way, as say what you will, Barack Obama, some people, I know many of you hate him, but as he pointed out, if you couldn't pick where you would be born on Earth. This is a thought experiment. And as they say in law school, I own this hypothetical. You can't be born in the future. That's this rule. You can't pick where, but you could pick when. This would be the time you'd want to be born. As messed up as things might seem to be, it's better for more people now than ever in human history. There's less starvation per person. There are fewer wars, really, per person. There's less unfairness than ever. But we can sure do better, can't we?
Absolutely.
Can't we do better?
Absolutely.
Let's be optimistic, people. Let's get her done. Let's change the world. What are you doing about climate change? No matter whom you are interviewing. And if you're not doing anything about it, why not? And if you claim that climate change is not a threat, what's everybody's favorite word anymore? Existential. If it's not an existential threat, then what is it?